My name is Madison Clark, I'm 29 years old, and until a few weeks ago, I thought I had my life figured out. I worked as a project coordinator at a mid-sized marketing agency in Austin, Texas. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine, a job I fought tooth and nail to get, a place where I felt like I belonged. That all came crashing down last Tuesday. I was called into HR for what I thought was a routine check-in. Instead, I was met with cold stares and an envelope with my termination letter. They accused me of dishonest practices, claiming that someone reported me for applying to another job under false pretenses, using my own resume, at a competing firm. At first, I thought it was some mistake, maybe a weird identity theft situation. But when I confronted my family later that night, my younger sister Haley admitted, so casually it made my stomach turn, that she had used my resume, my references, even my work samples, to land herself a job. And it worked, she said with a smirk. You should be happy for me. Happy. I lost everything I had worked for. My boss wouldn't even hear me out. My name in the industry was tainted, my reputation shredded. And Haley, she didn't seem to care. That night, sitting in my car outside my apartment, staring at the termination letter in my lap, I felt something inside me break. This wasn't just about a job anymore. This was about every time I had been treated like I didn't matter. Growing up, I was always the responsible one. My parents, Karen and Douglas Clark, had me when they were barely out of college. They were young, struggling, and I learned quickly that if I stayed quiet and did what I was told, things went smoother for everyone. Then Haley was born 3 years later, and everything changed. Haley was the golden child. She had a natural charm that made people laugh, even when she was being reckless. If she threw a tantrum, everyone rushed to calm her. If I cried, I was told to be mature and set a good example. I still remember one Christmas when I was 10. I had been saving up for months, doing extra chores, to buy myself a sketchbook and markers because I loved drawing. On Christmas morning, Haley opened a brand new art set that my parents had bought her, twice as fancy as what I had saved for. When I asked if I could use it too, Mom just smiled and said, "Madison, let your sister enjoy her gift. You're older. You can wait." It was always like that. In high school, when I stayed up late studying, Dad would tell me I was stressing too much. When Haley skipped class, Dad would laugh and say she was finding herself. When she got into trouble for cheating on a math test, Mom blamed the teacher for being too harsh. Somewhere along the way, I stopped expecting fairness. I learned to be the quiet achiever, getting good grades, finding part-time jobs, and putting myself through college without asking for help. Every success of mine was met with polite nods, while Haley's smallest accomplishment was treated like a parade-worthy event. I told myself I didn't care. But a small part of me always hoped that one day, my parents would look at me with the same pride they reserved for her. That hope, that desperate need for approval, was what kept me going, even when I knew I was running on empty. After graduating college, I hit the ground running. I worked 3 internships back-to-back, often unpaid, just to get my foot in the door. I stayed up nights perfecting my portfolio, reading marketing blogs, and teaching myself new software. When I finally landed my first real job at Bright Path Media, I cried tears of relief. I had done it. All those years of sacrifice, all those nights eating ramen noodles, living paycheck to paycheck, they had finally paid off. But my family barely reacted. I called my mom, excited, and she just said, "That's nice, honey. Did you hear Haley got asked to model for a boutique?" Haley floated through life differently. She never held a job longer than 6 months, yet somehow always had her rent paid and her nails done. When she lost a job, Mom would comfort her, saying, "It's okay, sweetie. You'll find something better." Meanwhile, I had to fight for every promotion, every raise. I'd volunteer for extra projects, work late hours, and even cover for coworkers just to prove I was worthy. My boss once told me, "You're the glue that keeps this place running." So when Haley started asking me questions about job applications, I thought I was helping her. "Madison, could you just look over my resume?" she'd ask, holding up a half-filled template. I'd sigh but agree. I wanted her to succeed too. Maybe if she had a stable job, things would finally settle in our family. Then the requests got bigger. Can I borrow your work samples? I don't have anything impressive to show. Can you tell me how you worded your references? Yours sound so professional. At first, I thought it was harmless. Sisters help each other out, right? But then she started calling me late at night, panicking about interviews, asking me to coach her. I would spend hours walking her through potential questions, even writing answers for her. And every time she got an interview, she would call Mom first, not me. I didn't know it then, but I was handing her the keys to my entire career. And she was about to use them to burn my world to the ground. The day everything exploded started like any other. I was halfway through my morning coffee when my phone buzzed with an email from HR. Subject: urgent. Investigation outcome. My stomach dropped as I read the words, termination effective immediately. They said a competing firm had flagged my name for misrepresentation, claiming I had submitted my own resume twice, once through their portal and once through BrightPath, causing a conflict of interest. But I hadn't applied anywhere. Heart racing, I called Haley. Hey, did you apply anywhere recently? I asked carefully. There was a pause, then a casual. Yeah, I used your resume. You weren't using it for that company anyway. Chill. I felt my breath catch. Haley, I just got fired. Do you understand what you've done? She scoffed. It's not that serious. I got the job. You should be proud, your resume works. When I told my parents what happened, Mom just sighed and said, Madison, don't make this a big deal. Your sister needed a job. Dad muttered, maybe this is a sign you need a fresh start. Fresh start. I had just lost years of hard work, my reputation, my income, my stability, and they were acting like I was overreacting. Something inside me snapped. I grabbed my keys, walked out the front door, and didn't look back. I could hear Mom calling after me, but her voice sounded distant, like static on a bad radio station. By the time I reached my apartment, I knew I couldn't stay. Not just in that house. Not in that city. Not in that version of my life where I was always the afterthought. I packed a bag that night and sat in silence, staring at the door. When I finally walked out, it felt like slamming a chapter shut. Leaving Austin wasn't easy, but staying felt impossible. I sold my couch, my TV, even my coffee table. I gave notice on my apartment and used the last of my savings to rent a tiny studio in Santa Fe, New Mexico, a place where no one knew my name or my family's drama. The first few weeks felt like grief. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, panicked, wondering if I'd made a terrible mistake. My bank account was dwindling, and I had no job lined up. But little by little, things began to shift. I found a part-time gig at a small local print shop. It wasn't glamorous, but the owner, Elliot Harper, treated me with more respect than my last boss ever had. He'd say things like, "You've got a good eye for design," and actually mean it. On weekends, I'd walk around the plaza, sketching the Adobe buildings and listening to street musicians. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. Then one afternoon, Elliot asked if I wanted to take on a side project designing flyers for local businesses. "You're good at this, Madison. You could make something of it," he said. So I did. I bought a cheap laptop and started taking small freelance jobs, logos, brochures, social media graphics. Word spread quickly. Soon, I had more clients than I could handle. It wasn't just about money anymore. I was rebuilding myself, piece by piece. I made friends. Claire, a ceramic artist who made me laugh until my stomach hurt, and Jordan, a barista who'd slip me free lattes when I worked late. These people didn't know my family. They didn't compare me to Haley. They just liked me, as I was. Months passed, and the pain dulled. One night, sitting on my tiny balcony, I realized I hadn't thought about Haley in days. That realization hit like a sunrise. I was finally living my own life, not chasing approval, not competing for scraps of attention. I had built something new, something mine. And I wasn't about to let anyone take it from me again. Just when life was starting to feel normal again, the calls began. First, it was Mom. "Madison, you've made your point," she said over the phone one evening. "Your sister feels terrible. Can't you just forgive her and come home?" I could hear Haley in the background, laughing at something on TV. "She feels terrible?" I asked quietly. "Did she tell my old company the truth? Did she clear my name?" Silence. Then Mom's voice hardened. "You can't keep holding a grudge forever. Family is all you have." But I didn't answer. A week later, Dad texted me. "You need to stop being so dramatic. Haley's under a lot of stress at her new job. She doesn't need more guilt." More guilt. She was thriving, while I had been forced to start over from scratch. Then came the final straw, an email from Haley herself. Subject: "We should talk. Madison, I know you're mad, but I didn't have a choice. I was desperate, and Mom said you'd understand. It's not like your job was that important anyway. I'm really good at this new role. You should be proud of me." I stared at the screen, my chest burning. She still didn't get it. It wasn't about the job anymore. It was about the fact that no one, not her, not Mom, not Dad, had ever chosen me. That night, I blocked their numbers. I deleted Haley's email. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty about saying no. The next morning, I went to the print shop with a strange sense of lightness. I wasn't their punching bag anymore. I was free. It's been a year since I walked away, and I can honestly say I don't regret it. My freelance business is thriving now. I even hired my first assistant last month. I live in a cozy one-bedroom apartment filled with plants and sunlight, and I spend weekends with friends who feel more like family than the people I share DNA with. Sometimes I still think about Haley. About how she laughed the day she told me she'd used my resume. About how Mom and Dad defended her instead of me. But when those memories sting, I remind myself of this. Walking away wasn't an act of anger. It was an act of survival. I had spent my whole life trying to earn love and approval from people who had already decided who I was, the responsible one, the one who would always pick up the pieces, the one who wouldn't complain. Not anymore. I've learned that family isn't just blood. Family is the people who respect you, who show up for you, who cheer for you without tearing you down. And if you have to leave the people who share your last name to find that, that's okay. Choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's freedom. The last time Mom tried to call me, I let it go to voicemail. I was sitting on the plaza with Claire and Jordan, laughing so hard I had tears in my eyes. For once, I didn't feel the pull to explain myself, to defend my choices, to be the good daughter. I just stayed in that moment, smiling, with the sun on my face. Because this life I built, is mine. And I am finally, beautifully free.